I want to talk about chakras. I'm not going to go over the chakra information that you can get pretty much anywhere that most people start out with, because I'll be touching on it here and there as we go. But I believe consciousness flows in through the heart chakra and emanates throughout all chakras within the body and can even transfer energy with other chakras outside of the physical body. But I believe that's different from your shared chakra system with your twin flame, and I'm going to get into that. There are many different beliefs on how the chakras work and if even they exist at all. Some people believe that each chakra has part divine feminine, divine masculine energies. Some people believe they have a negative and positive charge. Some people believe they only flow clockwise. Some people believe they flow clockwise and counterclockwise. Some people believe that if they flow in both directions, that one is in wounded energy, one is in divine energy. There are so many different beliefs, and it's crazy. So, of course, I came up with my own. But no, really, truly, some things resonated with me, and I went with that. And also, I listened to my intuition. So, I personally believe that as the soul is consciousness, which is the unknowing soul when it incarnates, and I talk about that in this video here, but I believe that consciousness flows in through the heart chakra like it's the portal, and that it goes in two main directions from there. It goes down through the more physical chakras, meaning the more earthly connected chakras, which are the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus chakras. It also flows up through the more spiritual chakras, which are the throat, third eye, and crown chakras. But from each of those 7 main chakras, our consciousness flows throughout our entire body, through every cell, through every fiber. The chakras are the tools our soul uses for experiencing our authenticity, which is our divine energy. But when we don't have good flow because of wounds, daily life, different vibrations, our divine energy doesn't have the flow to express or experience as it's meant to. This can happen easily from day to day. One theory I agree with is that the chakras give and receive simultaneously. My higher self gave me an example, and this came from the painting I did after I had the vision I share in part 1 of Soul Spark, knowing you are one soul with your twin flame. But the example was of a traffic circle or a roundabout. We can send and receive energy through multiple paths all at once. However, a traffic circle can get backed up and slow down at any of the entries and exits, which is normal. We experience a wide array of vibrations each day. I think when we're mostly consistently in higher vibrations, we have a normal flow of consciousness. So when we incur low vibrations, we can bounce back quickly because a slight bump in the road doesn't really affect us. However, when we suffer traumas or wounds, it's more like an accident is blocking one of our lanes, maybe even several lanes. So I was trying to learn more about the chakras, and I wondered why I might experience issues that are typically associated with, maybe the lower 3 chakras, while having good flow with other things that are also associated with those same chakras. So, for an example, I was having foot pain and overeating, and those I think are typically associated with the sacral chakra. But I was very grounded and dependable. My sensuality, sexuality, creativity, other things were in good flow, and those were also associated with the sacral chakra. And I think all the chakras can kind of play into any of this and all of this. This is all theoretical, but there are, typical guidelines with the chakras. So these issues, I think, are mostly the lower 2. Um, so I wondered how this could be that certain things seem to be of lower vibrations and others were in higher vibrations with those same chakras. But say when there's an accident, like someone wounded us, and it did some damage, such as made a huge pothole in the road, using this analogy. So there's consistent issues in that area where maybe vehicles or energy have to slow down and merge into one lane through that area. Maybe debris was left behind and causes other damage. And until it gets tended to, cleaned up, and repaired, it continues to cause a lack of flow, meaning it continues to be a low vibration within you. I also agree with the theory that the upper and lower chakras mirror each other. And it so happens that this is actually in my painting too. And it wasn't in my vision, but when I went to go do the painting of my vision, I was guided to put this in here where I've got the tree of life, and it's representing the Hermetic text, which implies what is within us is also outside of us, and all that is infinite potential in the universe is infinite potential within us. And that's the saying that we've probably all heard: as above, so below; as below, so above. And um, it's here, and I didn't even realize it when I was doing all this. This is all stuff that just came to me as I continued through my journey. But I did this early on without really fully understanding it at the time, and I'm sure I probably still don't fully understand it because more stuff just came in recently. This chakra, learning about the chakras is one example. But you have the colors here that we associate with the chakras. Not that they actually have the color. Some people do say that there is something in the aura field to do with them, I believe. But these are the colors that we tend to associate with the chakras. And you can see here the energetic lines flow through. And this part is representing the soul. And here you have like the energy movement. And this was all added in when I did the painting. It wasn't actually in my vision at that time. But even before I got into learning about chakras, I saw how there was mirroring taking place in the painting, how it was showing me some aspects of mirroring. So each of the chakras allow our consciousness to flow throughout our bodies. And remember, I believe this is our soul in 3D, with the lower three chakras being the more physically linked centers and the upper three being the more spiritually linked centers, and the heart chakra being the entryway for the soul to come to the 3D as consciousness. So the heart chakra is the star of the show. It acts as the bridge between the spiritual and physical dimensions. And I believe it acts as the bridge between the physical and spiritual chakras. And there's that mirroring that can take place that way. And I also even believe that it acts as the bridge between the more feminine and masculine in turns. This falls in line with my beliefs on how this journey is about bringing the physical and spiritual into alignment. That is a huge part of what soul alignment is. And if you haven't watched Soul Essence, Part 11 of Soul Spark, I talk about this and point out a few physical and spiritual examples of that. So, also, unconditional love is one of the biggest things highlighted on this journey, and that comes through the heart. So, when we're acting through that love with ourself and others, we have free flowing divine energy in that. So I believe that when twin flames have soul recognition, when the soul is activated, the first awareness our soul comes into is the shared energy. So even though we may not consciously recognize this yet, our soul recognizes it. Then as we get our mind and heart into alignment, which is balance and harmony between both, we become aware of it because our heart is open to our mind and our mind is open to our heart. And this could be the flow, say between the heart chakra and the third eye chakra. Now, the energy transfers throughout the system, and a lack of flow is caused by lower vibrations. So I'll use an example of an artist who was in tune with psychic abilities as a child. So imagine I'm that painter, and as a child, I may have been aware of certain benefits that my expression through painting provided, though there were limitations because of whatever awareness my soul brought to the physical when it incarnated. Even though I may not have fully understood my psychic abilities or understood where my passion for painting came from, I was in flow with them. But then conditioning changed that, and it may not have been directly related to that. Like maybe my mother told me that no one would love me if I didn't look a certain way. And it made me insecure, made me feel unworthy. And maybe I projected that onto my artwork. So my consciousness may have had difficulty expanding. It was hard to become aware, more aware through my experiences with that form of expression. I may have gradually fell out of alignment with my soul concerning those purposes. So when I had soul recognition, I didn't understand it with my mind, only my heart did, because that's the soul. The soul recognized itself. It recognized the channels it could flow through by way of the chakras in each body. It's like it said, hey, I'm in this other body. I can also experience and express through this other body because each body has its own chakras, but our soul is shared and flows through each body. So I believe that's how twin flames can experience sensations with each other without being physically present. And I believe that we don't experience everything they do or vice versa, but that we simply have access to send and receive. And some of it may be unintentional, but it can also be intentional. So back to the psychic painter person. I didn't know this with my ego at first, but when I moved into ascension on my journey, I began to balance my physical nature with my spiritual essence. My ego is part of my physical being. My heart is part of my spiritual essence. And now I am aware of the tools I have with which to express, to experience. Okay, so about the energetic flow where I mentioned vibrations. When I lost touch with my soul through conditioning, traumas, and wounds, my flow became consistently lower vibrational. I was not aligned with my soul frequency. And not to get all technical about that, but because we can't prove most of this anyway. But it's just our individual design. I don't believe it gets blocked exactly. It's not like that in my opinion. It's energy. It doesn't zero out. Like the bridge isn't out in the throat chakra, for example. It just is in need of repair. But I think it can become so low vibrational that it feels like a block. So when we are in lower vibrations, we don't have that good flow of consciousness to be in divine energy. If we don't have that good flow, we can become reliant on our egos. And the more we rely solely on our ego, the more out of balance it gets. It becomes inflated, as some people say. And all that comes from conditioning, from life, from various vibrations. And our ego isn't bad. I actually don't like how it's called the ego death. I prefer to call it the ego check because we need our ego. It's part of our design to help us interact with our environment. So we're just to get it in check, into balance with our intuition and not let it take charge. And it's through our egos through which we operate in wounded energies because we pick those up in the matrix. So when our soul incarnated as the oblivious soul, it brought some things with it, but maybe we lost touch with that. And awakening is bringing it back to us, bringing us back to it. So what we experience or express as vibrations, those vibrations contribute to our shared consciousness with our twin. Our soul, which is becoming more aware, and we can learn things through life in general, that's knowledge. But awareness is through spirit. And to me, that's more evidence of physical and spiritual coming together at the soul bridge, which I talk about in the soul bridge in parts 6 and 14 mostly. And those are titled Soul Bridge and Meet Me at the Bridge. But through each twin, when the chakras are in that flow of divine energies, aka soul alignment, we are more open to the overall energetic flow that is happening in the physical bodies. That's why we can experience what seems like attracting and repelling, though I don't believe it's how some people describe it between twin flames, like being positive and negative energies, being polarity like that. Although polarity does play a part, but I don't think it's in that way. But that's not the overall dynamic, in my opinion. Like when I was in the activation stage, feeling that obsessive energy, I watched videos of people talking about this and it was helpful in some ways. But as soon as I moved out of that obsessive energy and opened more to my own guidance, it no longer resonated with me. My intuition actually said that's not how it is. And I've been shown certain things in real world instances, Like, I'm hoping my next video will be about what I was shown while I was drinking a peach protein smoothie. And the smoothie was the example. I know, peculiar, right? But that's how we often relate, how we put our unusual occurrences that we're experiencing on this journey into perspective. And what I've come to believe is when we have a balanced flow, our default is divine energy, what is commonly referred to as divine feminine and masculine energetic traits of the soul. And because we're the same soul, when our soul became aware at soul recognition, I believe we were allowed to experience that divine energy momentarily. And that's for several reasons, such as unconditional love for them, but also the unconditional love we could have for ourselves. And also, so we could see how a union with our twin could be. But after the soul was activated and flow of consciousness was recognized in the other, it was then that our soul could resonate with those wounded energies coming from the imbalanced ego, because it was in an unhealthy flow state in each twin. So not only were we feeling the imbalanced flow within ourselves, we may have experienced the imbalances within our twin. And I think that's part of why this stage feels so overwhelming. That's to say, my twin and I were both triggered by the wounded energy flowing through our chakras. So we acted from that wounded ego, which interacted with all of the fear based energies surfacing at soul activation. Then, soon after, we each began to experience our own particular journey. And I'd also like to point out this is our connection to the 5D through our consciousness, our soul. That's why when we align with our soul, we align with our higher self, with our best timeline. How I mentioned our consciousness can transcend dimensions through awareness. So, as we become more aware, which is part of aligning with our soul, we can move into that 5D consciousness. And in this, we experience our divine plan, which is experiencing the vibrations our soul intended, expressing the love it intended. And when we get there, we're already seeing or coming into knowing how the one with whom we share our soul is getting there too. And because we share our soul, our timelines merge through our spiritual chakras coming into alignment with each body. And then the physical chakras, because they mirror and come together through the heart chakra, the soul bridge, then alignment occurs with the physical chakras of each body. And again, with the spiritual stepping up first, then the physical aligns. This is likely a time you'll notice healing occurring simultaneously, such as the throat and solar plexus, then the third eye and sacral chakras. Then I believe this occurs lastly with the crown and the root. As of now, this is just my theory based on what I've been experiencing. I believe we have to have a healthy flow, which is being in divine energy, soul alignment, before union can happen. So let me know what you think.